In the spirit of reconciliation, the P&C Federation New South Wales acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout New South Wales and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
Welcome to Perspectives and Conversations. I am Gemma Quinn, the CEO of the P&C Federation, and today we're lucky enough to be joined by two fantastic people from the Department of Education who are going to talk to us and tell us a little bit more about the opportunities we have in opportunity classes and selective high schooling for our gifted students in public education. So please introduce yourselves.
Yep, my name's Morag. I am in the Selective Education Team, working as an engagement advisor, and used to be a teacher at Hayes Park Public School.
And my name's Eva Canute. I'm a senior placement officer with the Selective Education Team, and I've come to that role after being an assistant principal at Bowral Public School in the beautiful Southern Highlands.
So both of you would know firsthand about the demand for selective schooling and opportunity classes and how much it means to families and parents to understand the process. Having both worked in school systems yourselves, would you tell us a little bit about what your team does and just explain that background and the mechanisms for parents who are interested in selective schooling or opportunity classes?
Yeah, so the selective placement team literally coordinates every aspect of the whole cycle of the placement test, and it literally does take a whole year for that to happen. So that we place students, firstly we facilitate the testing process. We take applications are currently open, and we take the process all the way through testing, and all the way through to outcomes in August.
And the engagement team supports students, supports schools to provide resources, so the resource hub for students to be able to access and find more information on the website, and just providing lots of help so that families and also schools are supported through the process.
Oh, that's fantastic. We're so lucky to have you here today to tell us a little bit more about selective high schooling and opportunity classes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so selective high schools and opportunity classes are just some of the strategies to provide or to meet the needs of high potential and gifted students. So they provide a setting for like-minded students of similar intellectual ability to learn together. Like all other New South Wales Government high schools and primary schools, those schools also provide not just for the intellectual domain of high potential, but also for creative, sporting, social emotional. So although students sit the test and entrance into the schools is based on intellectual placement, the schools do provide for all four domains of high potential and giftedness. It's also important to remember that, like I said, those settings are just one of the ways that the needs of high potential and gifted students are met. All government schools are mandated to meet the needs of such students. So it really is an option that is suited to some students, and some students really thrive in that setting where they're with other students of similar intellectual ability, but some students thrive in a more mixed ability setting, in a non-selective government setting. So it's just one way of meeting the needs of those students.
That is fantastic to know. I think there's a lot of parents who are thinking about what they can encourage their child to engage in through public school, and there's often just so many opportunities available to us. So OC classes are for primary school age, we'll start there?
Yes.
And what does that look like in a primary school setting? Because obviously not every school has an OC class.
So an OC is a little bit different because it's only years 5 and 6. So when a student is, if they're in year 3 currently, they would apply to go, apply now. They would then sit the test next year in 2026 when they're in year 4, and then they would enter in year 5 in 2027. And they would stay for 2 years. So it's sometimes 1 or 2 classes within a school, and they will just be within that class of those students, but they're still part of the school. They're still part of that mainstream school as well, and they get to do all the other things that all the other students do. But for their academic classes, they're within that class for 2 years.
That's really helpful to understand, because I know a lot of parents sort of look for schools that have an opportunity class that are already at the school, thinking that there's therefore more opportunity or chance that their child will have access to OC, or likewise that they won't have access if they go to a school that doesn't. But what I'm hearing is that's not the case, so that's a bit of a myth.
Yeah, so you do, and they still would need to sit the test, yeah. So, but they're an excellent opportunity if it's within your area, but you can also apply out of the area. So the difference with selective and opportunities classes is that you don't have to be living in that area, you can apply. But really important to think about what is most suitable for your child. So you don't want to apply for somewhere that you're not going to go. You want to make sure that it's easy for you to travel to, and that your child isn't travelling, say, for an hour each day, and that might make it more difficult to get to school.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, as Morag said, it's not the only way. If you feel your child has really high potential or is gifted intellectually or in some other area of their learning, if they do not gain access to an opportunity class or you don't have one nearby, all schools do provide for high potential and gifted students. And even outside of an opportunity class in a primary school, there would be children who either didn't apply for the opportunity class or for some reason didn't gain placement through the test. Teachers would still be looking out to identify those students with high potential or gifted students, that their needs would still be met.
And there are so many different things that our schools deliver for all our children, regardless of their interests or schools. When we're talking about high potential and gifted students, what benefits of the OC class model or the selective schools model are there for those students in particular?
Well, I think that, you know, often in those classes, because entry to them is based on a test in the intellectual domain, it enables the teacher to maybe work through different parts of learning at a faster pace. It enables them to go deeper into parts of the curriculum than other students might be ready to. It just means they're probably ready to learn at a faster or deeper level than other students of their age.
And having those other students around them gives them the chance to interact together and with likability, so they probably ask a lot more questions, they go deeper into things, so they benefit from being around the students and having those opportunities within the school as well.
And if I'm a parent hearing about this for the first time and thinking that sounds like the environment my child would thrive in, what does that process look like? Is it an application process, or what do I need to do as a parent?
Yes. So first thing, go onto our website. If you Google Selective Education or Opportunity Class, Selective High School, it will take you to our website, which has a suite of resources. Applications, very important to put your application in. So applications have just opened, they're currently open, and they will be open until the 20th of February. And it's really important to not miss that cut-off date. I know that schools do send that information out to parents through their normal communication channels, and they do let their community know that the applications are open, and also hopefully let them know when they're about to close. One thing to also know is if you happen to have a child with some sort of disability or a child that receives adjustments as part of their learning in school or adjustments for assessments such as NAPLAN, it's really important to let us know that as early as possible. So get your application in early, because we then liaise with the school. We ask the school for information about any adjustments they make for that child to make sure that they can access learning and assessment equitably, just like all other students. And then we would aim to mirror those adjustments for the child in the placement test, so that their experience of the test is equitable and the same as all other students without a disability. But sometimes that requires a little bit of setting up. Sometimes it requires special material to be prepared for the child for the test. So the earlier that parents put those applications in and let us know what their child needs, the easier it is for us to make sure that we set it all up for them calmly and with good, in communication with the school and with the parent if necessary, so that we can organise the test as required for that child.
So those additional measures that you might put in place, they'll all come through with the applications due on the 20th of February in one bundle. So work closely with your school, I'd assume, so that you can give them everything they need, and it's a really cooperative process.
That's
and
right.
all the detail goes onto the application form, and then we will liaise with the school if necessary.
Yeah. In the application, there is provision for parents to provide any information that we need to know about their child or any special reasonable adjustments that they might require.
And you mentioned that in the process for application, you might want to consider whether or not it's feasible to travel to a particular school. So it sounds like there might be options available and there's a process to decide. What are the different things that a parent might also want to consider when choosing a school, or anything else that comes up through the application process that they might need to know about?
Choosing a school is really important. The same as any decision in life. You need to talk to your child first of all. Have a look at the schools, have a look at the websites, because it's not where, like a normal government school, where you would just go to whatever's in your area. You need to think about what kind of school it is and whether your child would suit it. You can choose up to 3 schools for selective high school and up to 4 schools for opportunity class. That doesn't mean you have to put in that many choices, but think about what activities they do within the school, what other extracurricular things they do. You can have a look at their websites, their social media, and also some schools have open days, so you can go and visit and have a look at the open day and see if it's a best fit for your child. But one really important thing is making sure that you only choose schools you want to go to. So your most first choice school, you want to make sure that you put that as your first choice, because if your child gets an offer to their first choice, all your other choices would then disappear. So the choices and the order that you put them in are quite important.
And are there any other considerations that parents might need to keep front of mind when they're either applying or helping to prepare their young person go through the process?
Yes, well, we would strongly suggest, again, on our website, we have a whole lot of fantastic resources to help students prepare for the test. So we have practice tests, we have information about what to expect on test day, we have students who've gone through the experience talking about what it's like and what it's like to be in a selective setting. So we strongly recommend that. That's a really good way to prepare the child for the test. And really to have those conversations, for parents to have those conversations with their children in a really relaxed way. See the test as an opportunity to have a try. It's really important that not to become anxious about the test. We know that a lot of students families pay a lot of money to have their children coached for the test. We do not endorse coaching for the test. There is actually no data that supports that coached students have a far greater chance of gaining placement than those who are not. And, you know, the other thing to think about is that there's also the possibility that intensive coaching in the lead up to the test may exacerbate a bit of anxiety, and it puts a lot of pressure on the child, and that may impact their performance in the test on the day. So a lot of things to think about in how families are preparing their child for the test. But definitely take advantage of those resources. It's the Student Resource Hub that is online, and you know, we believe that that will be the best way to prepare for the test. And obvious things like get a good night's sleep, you know, have a good breakfast if that's what you usually do, or all the basic things of how to start any activity in a nice, relaxed, ready way.
It's really interesting that you mentioned coaching, because I think for a lot of parents, their mind will first go to tutoring and coaching when they start thinking about selective schooling or OC. I'm really glad to hear that the evidence isn't there and you're not more likely to get into a particular school because of coaching, because it's a really expensive model, and from a parent, and certainly for me as a parent, that's a real consideration. I'd want to make sure that I'm doing the best by my child, and if the model is going to cause them harm and increase their anxiety, especially the moment when so many of our young people are talking about and being aware of their mental health needs, it's a really interesting call out.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
I think just really knowing what the test will look like and what to expect. So there is, like Eva said, there's videos, there's what your desk will look like. Having that knowledge is so much better than the coaching or something that's going to build the anxiety. And the practice test will give you examples of exactly what to expect, and you can do as many as you like, you can do it as often as you like, and that will help you prepare and help you know exactly what to expect on the day.
So sit down with your young person, make it light and fun, look through the resource hub and start to make it a familiar idea or concept pretty early on.
Absolutely. And you know, I think also if you have a teacher at your child's school who might be able to sit down and chat with you and, you know, about the test. Often they know the child really well, and they can have some really good conversations and give some really good tips about how to approach the testing.
That collaboration with teaching staff is so critical, and they do such an amazing job. So if they have time, I would always avail myself of that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I know, coming from a school setting, if we have children who are, you know, really keen to apply for a selective high school, as a teacher, I would be 100% supportive of anything I could do to support them.
And I think even if you're not sure whether it's the right fit for your child, if you don't know whether you want to apply anyway, put the application in. You don't necessarily then have to do the test, but even if you're not sure, sit the test, have a go. If you get in, then you make the decision whether, you know, it's going to be the right fit for your child, and whether the student feels that they're confident. But just give it a go, and be calm, be relaxed. And the pressure is probably the biggest thing that students tell us that makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's good to be mindful of that as a parent, to unwittingly be a part of that anxiety and that pressure. That's not what we want.
Of course, as parents, we get very invested in whatever our children are going through, and we sometimes have to remind ourselves that what we feel sometimes comes straight through to what the child is feeling.
I think we've all been guilty.
Yeah.
I saw on the website it mentioned that equity placement model. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is that?
It makes sure that everybody gets fair access. So 20% in the equity placement model of places in each school, selective high school and opportunity class, are held for students that either with disability, from rural and remote locations, low socio educational advantage, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. So it just means that they have the same opportunities as all students to get placement in opportunity classes and selective high schools. And you don't need to apply. As a parent, you don't need to request it. The department has all that information. and we'll ensure that all of those students get fair access.
That's good to know. And if we're in a rural, regional, or remote setting, what does that look like in terms of travel? Are there hubs? Will someone be aware of where they might be looking in terms of their nearest school? And is all that information on the website, or is there something in the application process?
Yeah, so we do try to make sure that we hold the tests in, across New South Wales, because we are the New South Wales Department of Education. So we wouldn't expect students who live out in rural and remote areas to have to travel into big cities to do the test. So normally they will go and sit the test in a location which will most likely be a school, and they would go with the cohort of their school. If there are more than one, if there's a group of students applying from their school, they would all go and sit the test together. In terms of schools, there is the option for rural and remote students, which is Aurora College, and that is a like distance education where they learn with other rural and remote students online, and they have all their lessons on through. For high school, it's all their lessons.
So it would be, they have
Sorry, I might
maths,
have to cut that.
so they would have maths and science online, and then they attend all their other lessons with their the other students. And for opportunity classes, it's math. It's both maths and science.
It's maths and science and technology. Yes, and they get to know the other students who are learning through Aurora as well. So they're not just in their own, little room with a computer all the time. And they interact a lot with their teacher. And they also come together at points throughout the year to do activities face-to-face. So they become sort of part of a very strong online community while they're still in the setting of a school.
It's something that we hear time and time again from parents and young people that have attended Aurora College, is that they become a second community. I mean, you have the best of both worlds, right? You've got your local school community, and then you've got this vibrant online community, and you get to meet up with them physically as well. I do need to give a shout out to the parents from Aurora College who, despite not having a face-to-face or physical school environment, they have a thriving P&C association. I mean, it's so amazing. They are such great representatives for the model and for their young people. It's such a great school. I think it's great for our parents, if they're not already aware of it and they're from a rural, regional, or remote setting, to know that it's there and accessible. And maybe if they haven't already had the opportunity to get online and read up about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the website, there's lots of information. There's a great map that'll show you which schools, because the host school has to be, and has to be an Aurora host school. And then there's also, like you were saying, for other schools, there's a map of where all the opportunity classes and selective high schools are. So if you're not sure what's in your area, have a look at the website and you can see what opportunities you've got.
Yeah. And once you put your application in, you can message us with any questions you have. We do get a lot of questions about Aurora because it is a slightly sort of specialised model, but we're always happy to answer any queries you have about it. I do know that, as you said, the students form a really strong relationship with their Aurora teacher, who gets to know them really deeply, and then they have the benefit of having that other face-to-face teacher relationship with their other teachers. So yes, it works really, really well for many students.
It does sound like there's so many fantastic options on offer for our young people. Our children are showing that they have a great interest in being part of different models of learning, and they do engage really effectively in all models of schooling, whether it's OC, whether it's selective schooling, or one of the HBGT models that are available. So to sit down with you today and to hear in greater detail about everything that's on offer is really exciting. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with us about the process, or the events that happen after the application process for a family that have maybe gone through this for the first time? What does placement look like, or anything else that we might need to know that we haven't touched on yet?
Sure. So the test is due to take place in May of 2026, of the current cycle that we're in, and then outcomes would go out in early August. Some students will, receive the offer straight to the school that they put on the top of their list. Other students might get an outcome that shows that they're on a reserve list. And we do provide an indication through letting them know what band they're in as to how likely they are to get an offer within what period of time. And that's based on what happened in previous years. So that's the data we've got to go on. And then once they accept their offer, they enroll, and the same process would happen. They go through all the same transition opportunities, orientation days, and so on. A lot of parents choose to wait and stay on the reserve list as long as they can. By December, if you do have an offer that you've accepted, you can still be on a reserve list for a higher choice if you wish to do that. But by December, you then have to choose between one or the other. So you can choose to let go of the reserve list and go with the offer that you've accepted, or you relinquish the offer that you accepted in order to stay on the reserve list. So that can be a big decision for parents to make at that point. But obviously that's necessary because the schools have to start planning for who's coming to their schools and so on.
And I imagine talking to a young person about the process of selection and what it means for them and getting them to weigh in on the overall decision-making process is going to be a good thing to do. I don't know about everyone else, but my young people at home have very strong opinions about just about everything. So they would be the ones making the call, if I'm being honest.
And it is so important that they are, like you say, the most important person, and involving them all the time. What do they think? Where do they think they want to go? Think about their friends. It is important. It's not the only option, but if they're not going to be happy in their school, they're not going to achieve to their full potential. Yeah. So it's making sure they're happy, but also that academically, they're provided for, and in all their other areas. They may not only be in the academic domain, creatively, social, emotional, and physical domain are all really important. So making sure the whole child is catered for, and that they enjoy their schooling, and that they succeed.
And we always strongly suggest that, if your child has not had the outcome that you wanted, if they would, did not qualify for a school that you chose, or they might be on a reserve list, go and visit your local government school that your child would be going to. If it's talking selective high schools, visit the school, make a time to talk to them. Let them know that you are interested in a selective setting. Ask them what opportunities they provide for high potential and gifted students, for families who are really aspirational and believe that their child really needs to be challenged academically. I think a lot of parents will be surprised at what their local government school offers. And as Morag said, if that child's friends are all going to that school, that might actually be a really wonderful setting for that child. And if they have high potential, or if they're gifted and they're in a school, there's every chance they're going to do brilliantly through their schooling. So
there's only good outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And parents who are there to support their children, who are invested in their education, will form partnerships with their child's school. I would say those children are going to thrive in any New South Wales government school setting, whether it's selective or not.
And in terms of different touch points for parents throughout this, the website obviously is a fantastic hub of resources and a place where parents should really be focusing. And obviously your contact details are also available on the website if people have follow-up questions.
Absolutely, yes. So if you don't already have an application, you can email us, you can ring us, or if you have already started an application, there is option to communicate with us anytime through your application dashboard.
And I think if you have already got an application in place, that's always the best method of communication, mainly because then we've got everything we need there and we can ensure the best person responds so that, you know, that you're getting the best answer that you can get from the person who knows. And yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I know it's going to benefit so many families and we really appreciate your time.